Hey everyone, welcome to another video on the JayBee and Milly channel, and today we're going to be taking a little look at some of the things that we thought about the direct, going into a few things in a bit more detail, making some speculations, all that kind of thing. So I've got some work to be doing on my island to get it Brewster ready, so I guess I'm going to just be getting on with that in the background. And JayBee, I want to hear what you first thought. So of course it starts off with Brewster, so let's go from there.
So I think Brewster's kind of been explained as, it kind of is what it says on the tin. So you're going to have the roost to the left-hand side of the museum. And I just think that that's going to be a more interactive version of Photopia. So same kind of deal, there's like a layout where you can scan in amiibo called villagers. Although one thing I'm a bit, not worried about, but I'm wondering, why would people want to bring, say, Isabel or the Able sisters to the coffee shop? Now, is it just for visual cuteness, different dialogue, or will there be a benefit to scanning in certain characters? So, for example, in Photopia, if you manage to get KK Slider there, you get given a poster to hang up in your room and wherever you want. So, I don't know, I'm thinking that it's just for cuteness, but at the same time it would be nice to have some type of unlockable there as well.
Yeah, I mean, something I'm thinking, and I don't know if I missed this, if it was explained, so forgive me if it was, but what is the benefit of having a coffee?
Oh, I don't know really. I think it might just be cute, although I don't know. One thing that would be kind of cool, but they will never happen unless it was like a separate account or a creative mode. But I'm almost thinking it would be really cool if it was almost a way to in-game time travel. So the kind of stereotypical view on coffee in real life is it keeps you awake, it makes you energetic. So it would kind of be cool if, like, every time you make yourself a hard to get coffee or something, you skip maybe half an hour of in-game time. If there's like a bug or fish that you really want to catch, or if you want to kind of stay up in that weather condition to catch that bug or fish. But I'm not really sure what the real benefits of that would be. Maybe for building, but I don't know. I don't really see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, like you, if it's just going to be similar to just getting energy. You know how, like, we'll come on to the recipes in a minute, but they give you more energy than just eating one piece of fruit.
Yeah, ultimately I think it'll just be cuteness, because I doubt that Nintendo would, like, kind of promote drinking coffee to stay up all night in like a family kids game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. So
one thing that we kind of spoke about privately, or like we saw it when we were watching some of the reactions, I think it was Abdallah's reaction, that at the start of it they almost thought that they saw gyroids in the background of the coffee shop, which I don't think I personally saw, but if that's what he saw, it could be that getting the coffee and making the coffee is a way to activate certain gyroids, or maybe each of the individual NPCs that you can invite there comes with their own gyroid gift.
yeah. So I guess that leaves the question of who are you going to have your first coffee with?
Definitely KK Slider if I can. That would be absolutely amazing. And it would also be to celebrate some of the new albums as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit.
Indeed.
What about you?
I'm just going to say you.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not an NPC.
You don't need to be. It said that it works for multiplayer and stuff.
Ah, okay.
I got the cutest answer there, JayBee.
I'm afraid not.
So then we go straight to Captain.
Captain, interesting, I think it's one of the better inclusions, but in a way I almost feel like, and it is cool, don't get me wrong, but from what it seems like, it could either be a little bit too late, or even just a bombastic mechanic. So I know that Animal Crossing New Horizons has got criticism about replacing NPCs with almost soulless versions of themselves. Like, I believe when they introduced Luna, people were upset that the little walrus Wendell was replaced, and their task was essentially just taken up by an ATM machine. Same with, I think, Rossetti, they're meant to be one of the rescue squad.
Yeah.
And of course Harriet, before, we always thought that their position was taken by the mirror. And so again, I feel like maybe they've reversed this. So what people really wanted from Mystery Island tours back in the day was to be able to go to other hemispheres, was to be able to weather conditions and time. And it seems like now they've given us that, but with an NPC, so they've almost reversed it a bit, which is good. In a way, I much prefer them to use it as a reason to bring back an old NPC than just say, now you get to buy a Nook Miles ticket plus, and that'll give you this, because that'll just be more of the same dialogue, but just to get somewhere else, and then a lot of people that wanted that already have the items that they want now, or have caved in and time travelled. So for new players, it's just a great new mechanic. And just for Captain fans in general, I just think it looks so much fun.
And I guess not just for new players, but also with the new items like the new vines, those glow-in-the-dark plants.
See, that'll be a game changer, I think, in terms of design. I think we could almost do with releasing that section early, because I'm just thinking about all the different Halloween swamps that people would want to make with that.
Yeah.
That would almost be amazing to have it like that.
That would be really nice. And also in terms of speculation, for people who are wanting to invite new villagers to their island and things, do you think that you'll be able to see villagers on these islands as you would on Nook Mile tours?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Maybe, and again, maybe this will just make them too common, but I almost kind of think it'd be cool if that's where you find the new villagers, so it's almost like the reason why they were never introduced before was because they just lived somewhere else, like almost like real animals, like they're just not native to where we used to visit to before, they're native to this new place, and that's why we invite them.
That could be cool. I'm trying to think what my thoughts are on that personally.
I mean, no one's spoken about this, but I'd love a new villager space. Because if they're introducing loads more, I feel like we're at the stage now where a lot of people are happy with who they've got. And so it'd almost be a shame to introduce loads of these new people, because either one, people aren't going to use them, or two, they will, but I guess there's just a lot of people at this stage that are happy with their lineup.
Okay. That's some really interesting points from you there, JayBee. I think I'd agree with that. My personal view is that I don't think it's enough Nook Mile tickets. No, Nook Mile points. I think, is it 1,000 Nook Miles or something to go there?
To go to Mystery Island?
Yeah, it did show us, and I can't quite remember.
I think so. I don't know.
So yeah, anyway, I remember just thinking that I don't think it's going to be enough to have too much included, so we'll see what comes from that. But I guess at the same time, if it didn't, then I think it'd lose its grandeur very quickly, because once you've gone and got the resources the first time, you may not want to go back to another.
Yeah, almost just like I say, just glorified Mystery Island tours. But again, it's good fan service for the fans of Cap'n, because apparently the kind of sea shanties were a common part of their character. So for people to hear them again, or to hear new ones of them, is really cool. And just to have some use for the dog. Now,
yeah, I've been waiting for that for a long time. I mean, I've mentioned that in quite a few videos, I think, haven't I, JayBee?
That's an interesting question. So, does Cap'n... Okay, no. Harv's Island is where all the little people are. So, do you think it's possible that if the kind of daily or weekly visitors are being phased out a bit more, that Cap'n could almost fit that role? So, you can't just go to Cap'n whenever you need them. They come in the same spawn rate as, say, a Red or someone like that?
I'd predict that that's maybe the case. I'm not 100% sure. Or even just like bugs and fish, that sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not.
Maybe you could... I don't know if they would tease people like that. People would just time travel, but almost having them there as a summertime guest.
Oh, that's nice, but I also think that it would maybe defeat the purpose really slightly, in that it's to like bring you different times of the year. So if you're in the winter, then you'd be able to get some of the summer things.
Yeah, true.
So that's kind of my thoughts there. I mean,
so are you not expecting them to be there every day?
No.
Because that's what I assumed from the trailer, but thinking about it logically now, I'm thinking no.
You've kind of made me question myself a little bit. I am not 100% sure is the answer. What do you think about the vines? Like, you can use them to climb up a cliff. Did that strike you at all?
Not me personally, but I could imagine, say, some of the jungle islands that we've travelled to, or some of the kind of treetop resorts that we've visited, where they can just do so many amazing things with that it just excites me to like think about visiting other islands again. because I know the community will just do so many cool things with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say that the community is going to make a big difference there. I'm taking a look. I think the next thing that's to be announced was Halves Island.
Yeah.
So that again, something that I remember saying quite early on was I wanted to see what Halves Island was like. I remember physically trying to go and take a look. So I personally am really, really happy that we're going to get to explore Halves Island a little bit. So in terms of the guests, what did you think? Is there any that you were like, oh, I've heard these mentioned, I'm really excited to meet them?
I almost wish that we had the trailer up with us. I know that the new ones would be Harriet and Reese and Cyrus, although Reese and Cyrus were introduced to us before.
There's also Tortimer.
And Katrina.
Yes, they're going to be interesting.
And obviously there's like I said, there's like the weekly or daily visitors then setting up a permanent shop there, which is cool. I know a lot of people wanted to see Leaf in Nook's Cranny, but I think this also works as well. Although it does mean that we don't really have a top floor for Nook's Cranny. I guess it'll just be lost in the void or whatever. But I'm really looking forward to, I think, Reese and Cyrus, because from what I remember people saying, is that was to customize things that you couldn't normally do. So I think you said in the reaction, it was the item specific to what colour your airport was. So we spent a while trying to collect all the different Godzillas from people. You know, Annalise gave us the red variant. We got, I think Scooby gave us another variant. So it's almost like if you have one variant of one thing, you can get them all. And I just think for creativity, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Harriet's fine, but again, I do feel that we kind of had the mirror for that, and I'm happy with how my character looks. But for people that aren't, that's another big win.
I think it's just another way of them introducing more hairstyles as well.
Yeah. Who else? Tortum, I don't know what they do, to be honest.
No, neither do I.
But
So they're
cool.
going to be an interesting one to take a look at. And I think, like we've kind of started to speculate on, does this mean that the NPCs are going to be less frequent on the island? If they've got a main base there. Also,
I think they'll be on the island, on that Halves Island all the time. I don't think they'll be in our island anymore.
That's going to be a game changer, like, because people used to time travel to get certain guests, like Red. They were really difficult. You could wait 2 weeks for them to appear.
Yeah, I think it'll take a while to build it up where you can afford to get them all there. But ultimately, I've heard of this place, and I think we even saw it when we tried New Leaf, called Main Street. And I think this is going to be that equivalent. It's just going to be Main Street, but Island Edition, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, we started to touch on there with the new hairstyles with Harriet. Is that something you think's necessary? Something you think you're going to look forward to?
Yeah, I think as many hairstyles as you can get is good, because not everyone... I think one thing people like to do in Animal Crossing is to create what they look like in person. And so I don't think for a second that the hairstyles we have currently is enough for, like, you could make every single person on the planet. Like, and I don't think they'll ever get to that stage yet, but the more representation there is, not just for, like, diversity, but anyone in general, even if they've just shaved a line through their head or the hair, or just anything that you can think of, as long as it brings us closer to getting people to be what they want to look like in the game, I think that's a good sign.
That's great. Now, moving on to the next little thing that I wanted to speak to you about, and that is back on our island now. It's the new stretching mechanic. So you can get everyone over to the main resident services. What do you think? Is that something that you're going to use?
I'll try it once and probably not try it again. It's cute, and I think at the start of the game, it's almost like, you know, at the start during lockdown when you were immersed in the game, you almost felt like you were your islander in a weird way. Maybe it's just me that felt that way, but I almost woke up, like, I'd go for a routine where I'd, like, go to the sink and pretend to brush my teeth, and every time before logging off I'd get myself undressed in my pyjamas, then in bed and log off, like, that kind of routine. So I feel like every morning when I woke up I'd go, oh, now time for my morning stretches, and I'd be cute with it. At this stage, yeah, I'm just going to try it once and not touch it again, but at the same time, I can acknowledge that people who do want to have that immersion or do want that cute interactivity with their islanders Well, maybe do it more frequently then, me.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I think it's probably a once and then never again. I think maybe it'd have been better if that was one of the updates while we were still in lockdown, just to get people exercising a bit more. Obviously, you know, when you couldn't leave the house and stuff.
And it's not mad exercise.
No, but it encourages people.
That kinetic
I mean?
movement, I like it. And it just utilises what the Switch can do, really.
It does. So then we're moving on again. So I'm just thinking the next part of it is ordnance.
Oh, I like this quite a bit. Because loads of people complained or they weren't happy with how that was set up. You know, like I work all day, so when I'm up at night all the islanders are asleep, so it ruins it. I'm thinking though, and I'm sorry to say it, unless they do some amazing thing with islander activity at this point, I don't think a lot of people will care about that unless if you choose like night owl ordinance, if that changes the shop opening and closing times.
That would be
that
so
would be
good.
A game changer. That would change it for everyone. If it affects when Abel's is open, when Nooks is open, that will change the game. If it's just when islanders are going to be awake, I don't think it's going to do a lot.
JayBee, I thought this update was everything I wanted until you started talking.
Why?
Now I'm questioning. Oh, but the audiences will be interesting to see what they all mean. So then we move on to the home storage. So I guess it's something that's needed. I think there's just so many items in the game. I honestly believe that you should have the capacity to store one of each item just so you can say you've got each one.
Yeah.
That might be a very unpopular opinion.
No, I just think as much storage as you can get. Again, like, I know that people have got frustrated with the game because they felt like they had to clean up their island, and yet whenever, like, they'd get to a stage where their inventory was full, but there'd still be a load of junk on their island, so it'd be a case of jettison things or lobbing stuff away, and it would just be a tedious thing. Whereas if it was just a case of, you know, we can send things to storage, like, just imagine you're cleaning up your island. One section you could move your home storage, like, you know, from storage to home in the section that you're working on, and I would say you could clean up your whole island in your storage home in an hour or so, maybe less, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
And so I think it just makes resetting your game, like soft resetting it, a lot easier.
It does. So yeah, storage is always going to be a good thing. We then get something that has been talked about from a data mine for a long time, and it's finally here, which is cooking. So this is adding a new interactivity to things that we previously had but physically couldn't do anything with.
Yeah, like the bed, like what Luna did with the bed.
Yeah, so I guess it's really nice because it's kind of like, oh my goodness, we've been sat staring at this item for so long, and who knew that one day we were going to get this? Because I think something right from day one that JayBee's always said is that he wishes he could interact with some items more. Like the teacups, they're so cool, but you can't interact with them, you can't sit on them. So just to see any interactivity with items been increased is a good thing, I think. So yeah, that's personally like my take on it. I think that's kind of, you know, just it's really good. It's a new mechanic, and I'll be really interested to see what you can do with it in terms of gifting things to your islanders, if that unlocks more things like the photo frames, portraits, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as a player, I'm worried again, like with capping, that it's just the same thing like you could do before, but with a bit of bombast. So I know that with the meal that they made in the trailer, it filled up the hunger bar by 5. So you only need 2 of those meals and you've got a full hunger bar. And yet all you need to do is shake off 10 fruit, and that's the same effect. So it's almost like, are you just going to get ingredients, plant vegetables, like get cooking, just so you can break rocks and pull up trees? It just doesn't seem right. I would like to think that there are some flavours that islanders like that speed up the process of getting their portraits, or you can give it to NPCs and they'll give you a new bit of dialogue. Or even if you're rewarded in the fact that you can sell them for quite a lot of bells, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, bells would be a great idea.
Then again, I don't know. That's the kind of player that's talking. In terms of design, I can just imagine this, like, just the farms and the orchards that people are going to make with that. I just think it's going to look amazing. Like, imagine a cottagecore island full with these vegetables. I just think it would look amazing. So that's my opinion about that, you know. Best case scenario, it's great for design. Worst case scenario, it's just eating fruit, but you have to do more work to get the effect, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, for design, it's certainly going to be up there for one of the best updates to ever happen to the game. So, to that end, that makes it relatively exciting and certainly a new mechanic that we're going to try and do. Do you think it'll have any effect on Franklin's event at all and how much people want to participate?
I don't know, because that's an update. I really can't tell.
Because obviously that's cooking. You do for the DIYs. If you've done it once, you've got the DIYs. Cooking will no longer be a novelty. So, what are we thinking with that?
I would say, unfortunately, I don't see it being changed too much. Just because if we just got the last major update, I don't know what they're going to do now or next. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like they can't really do anything with Franklin's event to change it now. And it was one of those ones that's like, once you've done it, you've done it.
Like they said, the last major update, so we could get 3 minor updates.
Yeah.
Type thing. Or even paid stuff. Like, one thing that I think people would pay for, again, not anywhere near the price that the DLC is going for, but £5, £6, £7 for Gracie Grace to be added into this Halves Island thing. Like, I can see them still adding in things that are major, but maybe behind a paywall. Which makes sense, because I think that what they've given us already is probably worth more than a base game, in their opinion.
Yeah, they've done very, very well with all of this, so it's amazing. Now, the next thing that we unlock is the ceiling, so you can fit light, shelves, something that I personally never saw coming. I might be on my own with that, because I did watch one reaction where they'd actually predicted it, and I was like, do you know what, that's something that never crossed my mind, because we already have the light switches, so we're to assume the lights were there, and no, just something I'd never thought of.
Yeah, I just think it literally, some of the things like that are just what they are, you know, they're amazing, they're good for design, they're good for making things better, but that's it, and that's good enough, that's more than good enough, but there's not really a lot to speculate about. I can't think, there's nothing, like, it's just really cool.
Yeah, it's really good, and again, something else that I'm looking forward to. We'll see kind of exactly what comes of that. Now, the next thing that I think JayBee, in my opinion, is going to differ on slightly, and that is the reactions. So, another few new reactions, JayBee. I personally am going to say I don't use the reactions, so my opinion is that I kind of aren't too affected by this, I think it's fair to say, but I know JayBee, for the island tours and everything, this was something that you particularly liked.
Yeah, but we don't really do tours anymore. I want to start doing tours again. In fact, there's loads of dream addresses that I've got that I think would be great, but obviously it's the person-to-person tours that have that element of using the kind of emojis, the little emotions. I love them. I think that I'm going to use them all and maybe even add some to my like emotion wheel in the game, but ultimately it's just to make the game friendlier and it's got more features. I don't think there's any negative or positive to it. It's just fun.
No, and it's certainly nice. Like you say, it's certainly about the vibes of the island. It could encourage, you know, more interactivity again for inviting people over to your islands and things like that, because like you said, swapping like variants based on airports used to be one just part of the community. Like, you used to invite people over to your island purely with that purpose, whereas now you can customise them, that purpose is removed. So to maybe have more interactivity with things like we're saying, like the reactions, that'll be really nice. Okay, so what was next in the update? It was the storage shed, wasn't it? That was a game changer. So many people, I mean, like, we were just watching so many good reactions to this where people were like, oh my gosh, no way, this can't be happening. Like, wow, this, I think, for a lot of people was the biggest, I don't know, I feel like we saw some of the biggest reactions to this part.
I mean, yeah, it's quality of life at the end of the day. It just makes the tedious nature of resetting islands or redecorating so much better. And if you imagine, we almost kind of got a bit of that with the warp pipe, but like, you could literally, even if you're trying to be like, if you want to cover the whole basis of your island, have a storage shed on the left hand side and have a warp pipe on the right hand side, so you can warp to that storage pipe. Literally, you could access your home storage from anywhere on your island that way. And I just think that that's going to make a lot of people happy, including us. So, just again, and it doesn't really need speculating on. We know how it's going to work. It's just awesome.
Now, how about the ATM that you can place on your island as well?
Oh, it's really good. But I think a lot of people would have preferred it as like an app on the phone.
Yeah.
And I guess to the extent as well, maybe the storage could have been that. But I just feel that you can't really, in the real world, put things that you've got on you in your house from your phone, right? And I guess you can't really just transport stuff on a storage room like a Harry Potter wardrobe, but it just seems more natural than that. Whereas money transactions, I feel that that's done on phones every day, so I don't think there's any reason why that shouldn't have been a Nook Inc. app.
No, I completely agree with you. I also think the one thing that I do think about this is that I personally didn't think it was something that was needed initially. What I'm guessing is the new items that we've seen in the shop, like that, almost like that content creator's desk, and I think the other one's called an amazing machine. They're going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
We're talking like 100,000 bells. And that's why I think that's going to become so prominent, because there are going to be even more expensive items. So it's not just going to be, oh yeah, you're going to have this in your pockets.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my predictions towards the relevance of that. Next is a big thing for you, and that is the new KK songs.
So, I don't really have any speculations on this, more questions. So there's preset categories in the Animal Crossing guide, such as happy songs, lazy songs, grumpy songs, or moody songs. I think there's some others. But my question in general is, if you go to KK and choose a grumpy song, are you guaranteed to get the limited amount of new grumpy songs? Or is it just going to be a whole different option altogether? Like, maybe there's an event, say KK comes to the island and says, look, I'm releasing a new set of albums, I'm going to do a concert, which one do you want? And he does that every week, so you just naturally progress and earn them. Or can you request them directly? Like, I don't know who's going to be the one to find all the names, or if it's going to be released beforehand, or even if there's going to be, if this is the last major update, and I don't know how they're going to do this, because it'll have to be a hell of a turnaround, but a second edition of the guidebook. Because if it's the last major one, then for all purposes, they can release a guidebook now, and it won't be too obsolete for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that would be good.
But it's a great thing. I'm just curious on how we're going to get there.
It'll also be good for you to do your tier list videos again that you used to do on Halves Island.
Yeah, it will be. It will be.
So yeah, something else to look forward to. Now, another thing that I feel like I'm saying I'm looking forward to the entire update here, but something else that I'm really looking forward to is the narrow space kind of edit. In that I feel like a lot of people's houses, they've had to sacrifice interactivity for design. A lot of people, when we've done island tours, have got some stunning houses, but they can't go and sit on their sofa because they've not had enough space to design it the way they wanted to. I'm really happy to see that they're going to be able to do that.
What I'm wondering is, if you're sneaking and something that you're sneaking past is interactive, like a crafting table, if you're able to craft there.
From what I've seen, yes, because when you were on a narrow space, you were able to sit on a sofa.
Oh, see, that would be really, really good, because an issue that I've got with mine is that I've got a chair that's so close to a crafting table that I'm using as a actual desk that it just doesn't really work. It's all too mushed together. But with more interactivity, that would be amazing. And again, it's not something that I need to worry about particularly, but I can think back to island tours where they have made that sacrifice like you mentioned. So it's going to be good for designers again, which is, I think, the heart of the community. Like, when there weren't many updates, there were still people designing things and sharing them on Twitter and Instagram, kind of keeping the vibe alive. So I think that's a really good community to fire up with this update.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree. Now, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the Islander interactions. Now, again, and I feel like we're saying this for every bit of the update, but this is, again, something that so many people have been asking for such a long time, and it's finally here.
So, yeah, it's long in the making, and even back to, even like this time last year, earlier than that, people were like, oh, back in New Leaf, certain islanders were grumpier with you, or they used to come to your house or invite you over to their house. Because it's almost like, as bad as it is to say, and I still think that this will be the case, and people will complain about it later, but it is almost like once you've met one grumpy islander, you've met them all. Once you've met one normal islander, you've met them all. Because they always have the same stock phrases.
Like when you scan in the amiibo cards to invite them, like you say, it's just the same stock phrases.
And I don't think that's going to change. I think all of the certain time, like all the jocks are going to come to your house and say, you know, hey champ, do you want to come and pump some iron with me? Or do you want to come for a jog around the island? Or come check out my place, it's got a great like set of weights and stuff. I think every jock islander eventually will say the same thing, like with like interactivity now. But at the start, it's going to be fun. And I guess you need to make sure that you've got all the different types of islanders on your island to see all those different types. So for all of the jocks are going to say a similar thing. You've then got the kind of cranky ones that are going to be like, oh, you know, I realised last time I was around here, I lost something, or I hate coming here, but like, have you found it yet? Like, oh,
yeah.
Or like, it's a shame you didn't clean up before I came to visit. That type of thing. Just like funny, quirky things. And it'd just be cute, ultimately. Especially, like, if you imagine the big sister islanders, they could come round and say, oh, I'm just here if you need help. They could almost give you stuff like, you know, yesterday I saw you and you looked a bit tired, so I made you some food. That'd be really sweet.
Yeah, that'd be so nice. So there's some really good ideas that you've got there. I do very much agree with everything that you're saying, that I think it's going to be relatively specific to personality types. And yeah, that's kind of the main body of what I'm thinking for that. I guess we'll just see what it is. I mean, I'm gonna say something here. Like, I don't know how thrilled I am at the idea of them just walking into my house.
I guess so. So, I guess it isn't an issue for us though, because I'm thinking we only have a limited amount of time to record normally. So if we were still in the habit of doing regular island tours, if we logged on and the first thing that we had to do was go on like a 5-minute dialogue tangent to like get the islander to shut up and leave, that would be frustrating.
Speaking of dialogue tangents, something that we didn't mention too much but I think is certainly a factor, how do you feel about, you know, Captain, do you think you're going to have to go through that sea shanty each time and you can't skip it? Because people used to not like doing Nook Mile tours purely because of that big cutscene, all the dialogue. Am I just being picky?
I see us not being able to skip it. I thought that we could, because I just thought it was ridiculous if we couldn't. But thinking in the game, there's absolutely nothing you can skip really, is there?
Not really, no.
So that's what I'm thinking.
It's just a case of mashing A, really, and just hoping for the best. Okay, so I guess the last part of like this video that we're going to do, because this is like the free element, and then we'll do another video where we go on to the paid DLC. What do you think about this being the last paid free update?
I think it makes sense. I know people will disagree with me because they're like, you know, you can buy games for half this price or this exact same price with so much more substance. But I'm thinking, from a business sense, right? Everyone that works on these updates, everyone that works on these games needs to get paid. They need to earn a wage, so do the higher ups, and I guess to shareholders it needs to be seen as a profitable franchise. Now, if a lot of people have this game, which they do, then all the content that they're working on, for the most part, is for sales that they've already made at the end of the day. That's how they think about it, and I think that's right at this stage. And it's like, maybe if someone looked and did their research and realised that Katrina, who was their favourite islander, wasn't in this one, they thought, I'll just stick with New Leaf then. Maybe they'll make the odd sale or the odd couple of hundred sales on Brewster fans, Cap'n fans, Katrina fans, Harriet fans that would have gone, oh my gosh, this is exactly like New Leaf, now I'm going to buy it. But on the whole, the majority of the money they've already made. So it makes sense to then progress from, okay, now we've got a captive audience, we know what they want, they're dying for new stuff, we're going to give them it because, you know, we love the community and we're going to get people hyped up for this new thing we're working on, but now we're going to make some more sales. So for all, it's the last, and I do think they're a bit offhand saying that so specifically in a way, because it was almost like, it was almost a bit of bittersweet towards the end until the final reveal, which I think will be another video, but I don't know. To me, it makes a lot of sense because it just gets the team more money to hopefully do some more. Like, if this DLC goes crazy and everyone that bought this game, even 50-60% that bought the base game buys the DLC, they're probably going to work on another one. I don't see a world where they're not.
Yeah, because ultimately what we need to realise is, and again, we're going to go into the paid DLC a little bit more in the next video, but that space is going to run out. It's just another map. What do you do when you've done all the resort, when every island on the resort's taken up?
There's always a way that this game can be expanded. The only limitation, I guess, is what the cartridge can handle. But, like, if you think about the scale of something like Mario Odyssey, you know, it's like obviously a different basis of the game. They're not going to, like, do anything like that. But in terms of the size of the worlds there, you could almost imagine that for Animal Crossing.
I mean, the possibilities are infinite. Like you said, it's just what can the cartridge hold. But then, even to some extent, can you incorporate some things on the cloud storage? It is endless. Especially once you start looking at the online element with the paid DLC and stuff.
Yeah. Like, they could have expansion packs. They could almost do... And again, this is going on to, like, the Gracie Grace thing. But I remember you wanting to get back into The Sims 2, and there were so many little discs, you know, like Festive Edition, Pets Edition, University Edition, Nightlife. They could almost sell little online eShop packs like that of, you know, unlock this set of furniture with Gracie Grace, unlock this set of furniture with, you know, Chip and CJ coming back, or... Who was it? It was not Chip and CJ. Who were the older ones? There was... Nat and something and a Chip, I think.
Yeah, Chip.
Because CJ being Chip Jr. Almost, you know, bring them into it and you get different groups of fish and bugs. Like, there's so much that you could do as those little expansion packs, and maybe they could do it for £5, $5, maybe a bit more. I would love that. I would still want to get all of them.
So I think that ultimately what we're concluding on is paid DLC is still a big possibility, and there'll be a lot to benefit from there. Now, speaking of paid DLC, we are going to continue this video on into almost like a part 2 that will hopefully be available to you soon, where we take a look at that paid DLC. So if that's something you're interested in hearing, as well as seeing full playthroughs with all the new content and all things Nintendo, then please make sure to like, comment and subscribe.
JayBee and Milly.